Scorpio risings, you are moving on from a period of great change and rapid awakening in your 11th house, where Uranus has been transiting through Taurus for the last 8 years since 2018. Did I say 11th house? I meant 7th house. Uranus is now moving into Gemini, into your 8th house on Monday, the 27th of April, where it will stay for the next 8 years, whilst Venus has also recently moved into the sign of Gemini. So we are seeing the value of Uranus and its transit immediately. Uranus likes to shake up and wake up an area of the birth chart that has become stagnant and outdated and needs a dramatic upgrade. So when Uranus moves through a birth chart house, it looks very different at the end of the transit, as will this one look like in 8 years' time, as it does to the beginning. So the beginning of this transit can look like sudden changes with soul contracts, beginnings and endings. This can be people coming into our lives, people leaving our lives, where we are no longer growing and expanding and experiencing a sense of freedom and divine information. This can be a lot more receiving messages from people that have passed on. This is a very psychic house, especially when Gemini is ruling the 8th house, as it is for Scorpio risings. The 8th house being that house of deep psychology, the darker sides of life. This is where our fears sit. Contracts, this is soul contracts, this is mortgages, this is debts and loans and repayments, this is also inheritances. And when you've got Gemini ruling your 8th house of inheritance, this can be an inherited ability to communicate with people that have passed on to the other side. This can be an ability to communicate with people who cannot speak for themselves in this current lifetime, or with animals, or communications in all forms, and being able to communicate in the darker realms where other people find it difficult. Scorpio risings do not fear to tread as much as some of the other zodiac signs. So Uranus comes along and offers us the opportunity to start communicating more about our relationship with 8th house topics. There is an ability to share and learn and teach and be amongst more group environments, more friendship groups, where talking about 8th house topics becomes more of a thing. This is about developing your own sense of intuition and divine insights and receiving information, and perhaps organizing it somehow into systems that help with your own sense of healing some of those 8th house wounds that we all live with. Over the last 8 years, since 2018, Uranus has been shaking up and waking up your 7th house of marriage. This is the house of close one-to-one relationships. This is the house of business partners. This is the house of therapy and projection. Often the zodiac sign that rules the 7th house is a zodiac sign that we typically don't see within ourselves, because it is in opposition to the 1st house, which is very much ourselves. So when we have the 7th house, it's very much how you experience zodiac signs through the eyes of another person. This allows you to have a different perspective on life, and this is a fixed earth sign. So there is something about having a fixed, stable relationship with a partner, with a business partner, with a close friend, with a therapist, which has undergone a series of changes over the last 8 years. Did you begin 2018 being married and now you no longer are? That can be one of the ways that Scorpio risings can experience this transit. Did you start 2018 to now? Did you start this transit back in 2018 being in a very open relationship, only to find that now, fast forward to 2026 and the end of Uranus moving through your 7th house of marriage, that actually marriage and long-term commitment is absolutely something you do want, having started the transit feeling much more freedom and much freer and more kind of open-minded about what close relationships really mean to you? There may have been a shake-up in your value systems in terms of who does what in the relationship, how much give and take there is. Maybe there were some traditional roles around who provides the interior decor in the house, who provides the meals. Maybe there's been a real change taking place between you and your partner about how these things take place in the home. And actually now that the workload is divided more evenly, or somebody else is doing much more of the beautifying, like the home decorating, and you're doing much more of the home cooking. And now you're feeling a bigger sense of freedom within your relationship because there isn't that underlying tension of taking on any kind of traditional roles, particularly roles that may have been adhered more to women in society, as Taurus is a Venus ruled sign. So maybe there's been some real shakeups and dramatic changes about the about the societally expected gender dynamics within your relationship. During this Uranus in Gemini transit through your 8th house, there's a sextile aspect taking place between your 8th house and your 6th house. With a huge pileup of Aries energy in the sky right now, there is a huge concentration and a sextile aspect, which is the nature of Venus, and providing a free flow energy between your 6th house of health and daily routines and your 8th house of the subconscious, of the relationship between the living and the non-living. And there's something about really starting new exercise routines, starting new well-being routines. We're not thinking about the long term here, so trying new things, experimenting, not getting too tied down with, if something doesn't work out, maybe joining a new club, doing basketball for a while, doing football for a while, and then thinking, actually, no, I don't really like that. I'm going to try swimming now. And it's a time of experimentation and trying new things with a real childlike sense of passion and enthusiasm, doing more creative things in your daily life, being more creative with your food and nutrition as well, can really help support this relationship with receiving communications through the subconscious, receiving communications from your childhood self as well. There can be some childhood healing that goes on during this next 8-year period of Uranus in the 8th house. And your relationship with living and non-living can really experience a rapid change and a dynamic change over the next 8 years. Perhaps you're fearful of some of those things, perhaps you're fearful of those topics at the moment as we begin this transit on the 27th of April 2026. And in 8 years' time, when the transit moves on Uranus into Cancer in your 9th house, you realize that actually it's that the non-living is just as vital as the living side of this human experience. And you are no longer as fearful of those things, having traversed this time of great change in your 8th house.